Hi, and welcome to this quick tool review. This time around, besides reviewing a tool, we'll be looking at some viewer mail and an interesting tale sort of associated with it. About a month ago or so, I purchased on eBay a lot of collets. This one you see before you here, there's just a picture that included these ER11 collet holders and a bunch of miscellaneous collets, mostly because in the background you'll see these little rubber Jacob's collets, and I thought, those really look like tapping head collets, and since this auction is going for so little, I'm willing to risk buying it, the fact that I probably won't be able to use any other of these other collets, and I'll just buy it sight unseen and try it. So I did. The collets arrived, and here are the rubber collet pieces. True to what I originally believed, these collets, most of them I could never use. I didn't have any collet holders for them. They were like 2 ER collets and the rest were unknown. So I thought, I got some friends over at Active Atom, a channel on YouTube here as well, and they're watchmakers, and they have all these really small collets, and maybe they'll know what to do with them. So I dropped them a line and asked them if they'd be interested in having them, and they said sure. So I sent them the collets, and they were really appreciative, and they sent me in return a set of stickers, which are really cool, these Active Atom stickers, including instructions about what they're about and how to use them and how to apply them, etc., which I thought was really nice of them. Again, I didn't expect anything in return. I wasn't going to be able to use the collets, so I was just trying to send them to someone who could. So I had a bunch of these rubber collets that in turn do fit my tapping head, and I had them sitting out here on my desk, on my workbench, and I always have interesting tools and stuff sitting out on my workbench because I think it's just something neat in the background to have, and so I just do it sort of like props. And one of my viewers, Brad Tonalati, hopefully I'm getting his name right, noticed them and said, hey, I've got a tapping head that could really use some collets because it didn't come with any. Is there any possibility I could get some of those from you? I'd be willing to buy them. I said, I got more than I could use in 2 lifetimes. I'm happy to send you some. Just give me your address. So I did, and he said, maybe I'll send you something back, which I never expected or even wanted. He's very generous, but I didn't expect anything. I couldn't use them, so let's send them to someone who can. I think that's always great to pass along. Everyone's been generous to me in my life, so I think it's time to give back. So I got this package a couple days ago, and inside this package was, besides some packing materials, this bag that included a bunch of really cool small-size spotting drills, which are really handy. I've never had any like this style. Mostly I have center drills, and I have some long spotting drills. They all feel pretty sharp too, so that's pretty darn nice. So thank you very much for the spotting drills, but in addition, totally overwhelming, was this Michutoyo box. And when I opened it up, I was totally blown away. Inside was this perfectly functional Michutoyo 3 to 4 inch caliper. That's absolutely amazing. I am flabbergasted. That was incredibly generous. I don't know what to say other than thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. Brody, that's way more than I sent you, and I certainly wasn't expecting anything, let alone something this generous. So thank you very much. Just wanted to give you a shout out. All right, so let's move on to the tool of the week. It's this vise I found on eBay, and it was listed as a machinist-made vise from the 1940s. Presumably the people selling it knew the person. The guy had his name fully stamped into it, William James Gallagher on the front, and in the back, WJG, his initials. It's absolutely a beautiful piece of work. Besides the traditional features of just having all the sides ground and hardened, this is incredibly hard. Speaking of hardened, Scotch-Brite barely touches it. There was some surface corrosion on it. This thing was a bit bound up when I got it, and I had to clean it off, and I took it apart and Scotch-Brited it. And the Scotch-Brite, you really had to push down to take any material off at all. I've never run across something like that. That was pretty impressive. It's got a lot of really wonderful features to it. The jaws are removable. They're hardened and ground. They meet perfectly. They look like they were possibly ground in place. There's 3 different size V grooves to hold small, medium, and larger round parts in the jaws. The attention to detail is amazing, like this curved part on the back of the the moving jaw that really wasn't necessary. The front jaw can be made out of a square piece with sharp edges because he drilled a relief. The moving jaw is not, but it sits a little bit proud of the base of the vise. The sliding portion underneath has been ground to fit perfectly in this way, and instead of the typical approach of just having a rectangular piece that sticks down into the slot to line it up and prevent the jaws from rotating, this gentleman chose to use ground ways in here and 2 splines on each side of the jaw to give maximum rigidity from rotation, which is pretty cool. The tightening nut portion can be locked off with this screw because it's split. I don't know if you can see that. It's held in place, it's pinned and held in place with the set screw here, but it's actually really tight. It doesn't come out very easily at all. The threaded shaft is one piece made with this rear section that's beautifully knurled. I don't know what to say other than this thing is an incredible find because the attention to detail is amazing. Both sides have slots to clamp it and hold it down onto a mill surface, and the front and the back also have clamping spots. It seems like every attention detail was really thought out on this guy. There's also some drilled and tapped screw threads on 5 different spots on the fixed jaw, and I'm not sure what they used it for, but in a modern setup, if you had this in your milling machine, clamped to your table or in the vise as a secondary vise, you could follow a Tom Lipton example, and you could put a ground piece of metal right here that you can flip up that pops down to locate your 0 point. And if you have a DRO, you could set your 0 and always come back to it, which is really handy. That's a great tip from Tom Lipton over at Ox Tools. He is a wonderful teacher. When I got this guy, there was a little bit of corrosion, as I mentioned earlier, and I cleaned up most of it, but this metal is so hard that, again, Scotch-Brite you really had to struggle to get it to take off any material at all, which is pretty impressive. I also am really amazed at how good this shaft is, considering it's one piece. There's a huge amount of stick out in these very, very fine threads, which gives you a lot of mechanical advantage when you're tightening it up, and also gives you very good precise control over jaw placement, the moving jaw placement. So I got to say I'm really proud to have acquired this piece, and I will enjoy it for the rest of my life. It is a really beautiful vise. I can only imagine how many hours we got put into making this, and I'll appreciate it, and hopefully it'll get passed on to someone else who can appreciate it. So that's my find. Thanks for watching. Hope you find it useful. Hope to see you next time.